gives that tree a little extra character. Looks like just dirt mostly on here, so I'm gonna see if I can get that off with a wire brush, and then I can assess it and maybe sand it. I'll probably need to sand it down. You know, I just had another thought too, is I've got a pressure washer. I wonder if I could just pressure wash all of this. Alright, we'll start with this. Okay, I'm gonna give this a shot with a pressure washer and see if that works. Cat tree. In case you noticed that odd glow earlier in this video, it was because there's wildfires. There's a lot of smoke in the air right now. It makes it really hard to breathe. Plus this excessive heat. I mean, this is, what more? What more 2020? I expect locusts next, and then maybe it'll start raining blood. Although raining blood would be kind of cool, I think. It'd be kind of awesome. Hey, since it's like 1,000 degrees out, it seems like a good time to look at some more of those Summer Jam heat wave projects. Okay, first up, this is a really clever design from Carlos Pizarro in El Paso, Texas. So this looks like, obviously he's got a collection of beer caps on here since 2019. It took me a second to figure out what's going on here, and I see what this is. It's like a Plinko game. So when you take the cap off the bottle cap drops down into that little Plinko setup, and then drops down into those areas at the bottom. And hey, what says heat wave better than an ice cold beer? I want to hear what that sounds like when the cap goes through there. David Gentile spent the time, well, it looks like working out in the heat to build this boardwalk. He's kind of prototyping it here. He says he still has a lot more to build, like 20 or 30 of these. What it's going to do is cross a marsh that's behind his house. And you can see from the second picture how he's building that. It's similar to the way I built my boardwalk out in the front yard. That was years ago, and that thing is completely rotting at this point, but I got a lot of life out of it. Frank Markovich was working on a rustic style headboard for the bed. He says he wants to just leave the barn wood alone with no stain or poly, and then, you know, finish the rest of it. I think it's great that you got that much done in such a short period of time. By the way, for those of you who are new here and don't know what's going on with the Woodworking Summer Jam, it was just a thing we did like a month ago or so. It's been a few weeks where I gave the challenge to build one project over the course of a weekend, and it had to just be something to fit with the theme heat wave. And we're looking at some of those entries now. If you'd like to see all of them, there's a link down in the description. It wasn't a contest or anything, it was just a fun thing. And here's a cooler made out of oak to keep drinks cold during the summer heat wave. And this entry comes from Travis. So it's just oak panels rabbited onto a box with some handles attached. And he finished it with some polyurethane to keep the melting ice from soaking into the wood. Here's an awesome idea from Stephanie Kala. She says the best part of a heat wave is when it finally cools down enough for you to go outside and relax. I agree. We've got a couch on the balcony, but it was difficult to eat dinner or to place drinks outside because there's no place to set anything down. So she made this little balcony holder. This is a really clever idea. And then you know what? She updated her post. Apparently, we're not allowed to hang anything from our balcony railing, so the table had to come down. I need to figure out if I can repurpose it or if I should pull it apart and save the materials for another project in the future. Open to ideas. If you have any ideas, let her know. If there's one thing I like, it's small space solutions. I'm gonna give these a light sanding before I paint them. I probably don't really need to, since I'm the only one who's ever gonna use this or even see these. Well, other than you now. But I guess I just can't leave well enough alone. I can't even imagine living in a world where sanding doesn't exist on a project. Like all of my workout equipment, I'm going to paint this black and red and stay on brand. It's also a shout out to Jeff Cavalier, Athlete X, which is probably the best fitness channel on YouTube. His whole gym is black and red. And if you do watch Jeff Cavalier, have you done your face pulls today? A couple of people in my last video were wondering if these wooden dowels are going to be strong enough or if they're just going to break. And yeah, they're more than strong enough to support my weight. I think that a lot of people may underestimate the strength of wood. The other concern some people had was that I'm not bolting these two together. There's no cross piece to connect these. And I just don't think there's any way, there's no way to tip them over unless I was really, I guess, spread out wide like that. I could possibly do it, but there's really no exercise I would want to do that wide. And then the other concern was whether they would slip. And I just think these bases are so wide that that's also not a problem, and they're probably not going to be going forward unless I was way up front. There's just not a lot of side to side or front to back motion on any of the exercises I do on these. Even when I do just like leg lifts like this, all of my weight is just focused downward. I'm super happy with this design because I looked online for different versions of DIY dips bars, and a lot of them seemed overcomplicated or just really boxy and cumbersome. And I think that this is kind of the ultimate simple design that works well. Hey, I want to thank all of you who helped me out with suggestions for that cat tree, or for the tree itself, and how to treat that and, you know, the green wood so that it will last longer and won't make a mess. And a lot of you gave me suggestions on how to deal with potential insects, maybe wrap it up for a few months in plastic, or even like fog it in a box or in a bag with like an insect killer. And I don't really want to do that, even if I let it air out. I just don't like the idea of that being on there and then the cats being on there. But I've examined it really closely, especially now after I kind of cleaned it all off, and it doesn't look like there's any bugs in there. So I think I'm just going to kind of take a risk and just build it, bring it in, and I don't know, if I start to see bugs, I'll remove it. I'm sure this tree isn't going to last forever. I don't plan on it sitting in my dining room for too many years to come. Maybe, who knows? And you had some really good ideas about how to secure that up in the corner. And I think the best solutions that you've offered seem to be bolt it to a plywood base and then make platforms on parts of the tree, and those platforms can attach to the wall. And that to me sounds like a great idea. Another thing is somebody suggested putting some of that sisal rope around even just parts of the trunk just to add some extra texture. So I think I'm going to do that too. So lots of good ideas from all of you. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this comes together. I wanted to do this tree part first. I was going to do that long platform above the window. That's why I have that piece of plywood still sitting in my shop. But I think I want to do the tree first so that there's an exit from that. Otherwise, they're going to go all the way up, all the way across the window, and then they're not going to have any way out. And I don't want them to try to jump from like 7 feet high, even though they could probably stick that landing, but I don't want them to do that. Oh, and finally, I wanted to thank you all for watching the last video. I don't know, the rambling was a little long at the beginning of that video. I got some mixed reactions on there. Some people were just like tuning out. Other people were kind of like, why are you doing this? This is a woodworking channel. I don't know. With this kind of video, you're bound to have some clunkers. That one was a 7. I would say a 7. You know, this is my scale of rating movies because I use the Internet Movie Database, the IMDb scale. Wait just a second. A loud truck coming. Okay, there, now I can continue. Anyways, I like to rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, but only use 6 through 10. And the reason why, and this is what I do on IMDb, is because I look at it as like a grade, like, you know, a 6 would be 60%, would be a D, and then of course a 10 would be an A. But I always feel like, and I don't rate anything as a 5 because that means that would be a failure. And I don't think anybody who makes a movie, just the fact that you've actually taken the time, there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of people involved in any movie, that it warrants at least getting a D, and that might just be a D because I don't like it. And so that would be a 6, and it's very rare that I score anything a 6 on IMDb. The vast majority of the movies I watch are 7s, and to me a 7 is a movie that I watch, it's perfectly entertaining, but ask me about it a year from now and I'll totally have forgotten about it. I'll barely even remember what it was about. I'll go into this rating system some more sometime about what it means to be an 8, 9, and a 10. I don't have very many 10 movies. There's been a few that I've seen this year. You know what is a really good movie? If you like scary movies, probably one of the best films of the year, and it's definitely one of the best scary movies I've seen in a long time, and you have to have Shudder to see it, is Host. And this is a new film that it was shot during the pandemic, and so it's all shot on Zoom. We've seen movies like this before where it's told through screens, but this one was shot, directed, edited completely, you know, apart from each other. So it's about this group of people who decide to have a seance via Zoom, and it is super scary. And another thing I like about it is that with this kind of direct to streaming movie, you don't have to worry about producing a movie that's an hour and a half or longer. So this movie it's like 54 minutes long, which is great. It tells the story, tells just what it needs to do in the time of a Zoom call, which when you use the free version of Zoom is 40 minutes maximum. So they've stretched that out a little bit, but they're still within that 40-minute call, which plays an important part in the movie. I think I just went off on another tangent here. Well, maybe the rambling in this video was at the end, so it's more palatable, right? Oh, I know what it was. It was the last video I made. That was a 7. It was perfectly serviceable, but perfectly forgettable. And now I'm beginning to think this one kind of, it's devolving into a 7 very quickly, so I probably should just end it here. I'll see you guys later.